Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture what we are going to do is that we are going to learn how to go ahead and post the user data to the post which we are making in our application. So if you have a look at our application in the main activity basically has only the post data, and we actually have no data related to the user who actually posted that item. So in order to understand this, I'm going to open up the Firebase database over here, and if you could notice, this thing right here is our post which we have made, which is a picture, its title, its description, and the actual part where the image is stored. Now the issue with this is that we don't know which particular user from these users actually posted this particular image. So in order to find that out, what we need to do is that while we post this data, we also need to make sure that we post the username over here. So in this lecture, what we will do is that we will learn how to do that. And I also have one important announcement to make, and that is basically what I'm going to do here is that as we are building this application, and it's quite a complex application, and I can understand that as you are a beginner, you will find a little bit of the code over here as confusing. So what I'm going to do at the end of this section is that I'm going to take the entire code, I'm going to comment it, and I'm going to write in the comments that what particular line of code actually does. So that will ensure that no line of code is left ununderstood. So that is going to help you to understand the code even better, because I know that many students will want more explanation of each and every line of code, but unfortunately I cannot go ahead and keep on explaining each and every line, especially those lines which are already been explained, especially those concepts which are already being explained. So what I'm going to do is that I'm also going to provide you the flow of this particular application, and the flow, and by flow what I mean is that I'm going to basically map out the entire process of building this app and how to basically think while writing code. That means, let's say you want to build a particular activity. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to design the flow, and I'm going to also paste the code over there so that you could understand this snippet of code does this particular thing. So that is going to be helpful for you in the future as well. So once you go through these tutorials, you could simply print that mind map, or you could say code snippets and the flow on a paper, and what you could do is that you could simply refer to those notes or snippets whenever you actually want. So I'm going to do that for each and every complex application which we are going to build. So it might take a little bit of time for me to upload those, but I'm definitely going to do that for you. Okay, so now let's get back to the lecture. So what we wish to do here is that we wish to add another thing to our post. So right now, as you could see, we have posted the title, description, and the image. Now what we wish to do is that we wish to go ahead and add the user ID as well. So the first thing which you need to do is that you first need to get the ID of the current user. So what we will do here first is that we will declare a few variables. The first variable which we will declare is going to be the Firebase auth. So we will type in private. That's going to be Firebase, not database. We want the Firebase auth. Let's call this thing as mauth. So we do need the Firebase authentication so as to get the user ID, and after that you also need a reference to the database as well. So I'm going to type in private database reference. Let's name it as m database users. And now once we have this thing, what we need to do is that we also need to post the user ID to the post over here. So what we will do here is that we will type in new post dot child, and here we want to add the user ID. So I'm going to type in UID, and then what we do is that we set the value equal to the user's ID. So we type set value, and now in order to pass in the user ID over here, the first thing which you need to do is that you need to get the current user. So in order to get the current user, what we do is that we also create the Firebase user variable over here. So that's going to be private Firebase user, and let's name this user as, let's say, m current user. So once we have it, we are good to go. Now one more thing which you need to do before you post the user is that you need to initialize these variables, that is the authentication, the database users, and the current user as well. So in order to get a reference to these three things, first we go inside the onCreate and first let's get a reference to the mauth. So that's going to be mauth equals, and that is basically going to be equal to firebase auth dot get instance. So this is similar to what we have done up till now in each and every lecture. And now let's get the reference for the current user. So that is going to be from mauth dot get current user. And then finally what you need to do is that you also need to get a reference to the database users as well. So that's going to be mDatabase user equals firebase database dot get instance dot get reference, and we are looking for a child which is called as users, and inside here we are looking for again a child which is going to be mCurrent user dot get UID. So once this thing is done, what you could do is that you could pass in this mCurrent user over here so that the data could be actually posted. So here we actually want to post the user ID. So here you could type in mCurrent user dot get UID, and what this is going to do is that it's going to post the UID, that is the unique ID of that particular user who is posting the data, and it's going to post it over here along with these three things. So now we have this thing attached to the post as well. So we could say that the user is now associated with any post which he's going to post. So once this thing is done, let's add a value event listener to the mDatabase as well. So in order to add the value event listener, we will go right over here and make sure to cut this code, and we are going to paste it now. But even before that, let's create the value event listener. So mDatabase users dot add value event listener, and that's going to be new value event listener. And as you could see, now we have the onDataChanged method. Now here what we want to do is that we want to paste the code which we have cut just right now. So I'm going to paste that code over here, and once this thing is done, as you could see, we have errors over here. So in order to fix those errors, what you need to do is that you need to declare these variables as final. So let me just type in final over here, and for the database reference as well, that should actually be final. So once this thing is done, as you could see, the error associated with these things is removed. So what we essentially want to do is that when the data change occurs, we actually want to post these values, that is nothing but the value of title, description, image, and UID to the database. So once this thing is done, make sure to give a semicolon over here. And the final thing which you need to post over here is going to be the username. So right now we have not posted any username over here. So what we will do is that we will post the username in the same fashion as we have posted everything else. So that's going to be child, and that's going to be username dot set value, and we are going to set the value equal to the data snapshots child. So right now we have a data snapshot from which we could get the data. So we will type in data snapshot dot child, and we are looking for something which is called as name. So we essentially want to get value from there. So that is going to be get value. And then finally, once this thing is done, what you need to do is that you need to add an onComplete listener to it. So we will type in add onComplete listener, which basically tells us when the particular thing is completed. So after typing this thing in, we type in new onComplete listener, and as you could see, now we have the onComplete method as well. So now once everything is done and once everything is completed, that is the entire data which we want to post is posted to the database. What we wish to do now is that we wish to start a new activity, and that is nothing but we now want the user to be redirected to the main activity. So let's create an intent for that, but even before that, we want to check if the task is successful. So we type if task dot is successful, then what we wish to do is that we wish to start a new intent. So that's going to be intent, let's name this thing as main activity intent equals, let's say, new intent, and that's going to be post activity dot this comma main activity dot class, and then finally start activity, and that's going to be the main activity intent. So once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So in the next lecture, what we are going to do is that we are going to go ahead and try to run this application and see how it works. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.